Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into a massive question. Is the US dollar's reign over the global economy in real trouble? There's a lot of chatter about this, but there are also some very real market movements that suggest its long-held top spot is facing its biggest challenge yet. So let's get into it and break down what's really going on. Okay, so let's just put it right out there. Is the era of the US dollar actually over? I mean, for decades, it's been the absolute bedrock of global finance. But now it looks like a perfect storm of events is making everyone, even entire countries, rethink their reliance on it. And this isn't just some abstract theory. It all starts with the hard numbers. And here's the proof in the pudding. The US dollar just recently hit a 4-year low against other major currencies. Now, a dip like this, it's not just some random blip on the radar. It's a symptom of much deeper anxieties running through the global financial system. So what's causing all this? Well, it really boils down to one word: confidence. Or maybe a lack of confidence. You see, for a currency to be stable, it needs a stable political environment backing it up. So when the world's biggest economic power starts sending, let's say, mixed signals about its long-standing promises, investors, well, they get pretty nervous. And that is exactly what's been happening. Take this statement about NATO, for instance. When the leader of the United States openly questions the very cornerstone of the Western military and political alliance, it does a lot more than just stir up some diplomatic drama. It sends a massive shockwave through the entire financial world. And that shockwave has a name: investor uncertainty. Look, money loves predictability. It flows towards safety and stability. So statements that throw decades of foreign policy into question create profound instability. Investors start asking themselves, okay, if core alliances aren't a sure thing anymore, what else is at risk? That kind of doubt directly eats away at the stability and, of course, the value of the dollar. And we're not talking about an isolated incident here. This is all part of a much bigger pattern of instability. The source material also points to serious tensions with Iran and a massive military buildup. You put all of that together, and you've got a recipe for seriously eroding the confidence that holds the dollar up. This kind of internal uncertainty, it also creates a huge opening for challengers on the outside. And right on cue, a very coordinated challenge is emerging. It's being led by China and that group of nations we call BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And they're not just trying to compete economically. They have a very, very specific playbook in mind to weaken the dollar's influence. And that playbook is called de-dollarization. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a conscious, deliberate plan to chip away at the dollar's dominance. The end goal? To create a global economy where you don't have to use the US dollar for everything, from buying oil to holding your country's reserves. So what does this playbook actually look like in practice? Well, it's pretty much a 3-step process. First, you form powerful economic alliances like BRICS to get everyone on the same page. Second, you get control over essential resources that the rest of the world absolutely needs. And third, you use that leverage to push or maybe even force other countries to trade in your own local currencies instead of the dollar. And that brings us to that crucial second step: controlling key resources. This is where China has a massive, massive advantage. It has almost complete dominance over the world's supply of rare earth metals. And these aren't just some obscure elements. They are essential for basically everything in modern life: your phone, electric cars, even advanced military tech. This control is a powerful economic weapon, and it gives them incredible leverage. So while China and the BRICS nations are pushing from one side, an old ally is actually creating pressure from another. Europe, it seems, is no longer happy to just play second fiddle to the US economically. They're building their own powerful tools to stake their claim in global trade. And they're being described in a pretty dramatic way. Yeah, you heard that right. The source material uses this exact phrase: the mother of all deals, a trade bazooka. I mean, that is not subtle language. It signals a huge, aggressive shift in Europe's strategy. This is all about building an economic powerhouse that can act on its own and maybe even compete directly with the United States. So, what on earth is a trade bazooka? Well, it's a metaphor, right? It stands for a massive, game-changing economic policy. Think of a huge trade deal that slashes regulations and tariffs, making it way easier for countries to trade with the EU. The goal is to basically pull the world's supply chains toward Europe and, by extension, away from the US. And this is already causing some real friction. It's not just talk.
The source material says flat out that the U.S. Treasury Department was disappointed by a new trade deal between the EU and India. This shows the bazooka isn't just a threat, it's being fired, and it's having real-world impacts, creating a clear split in strategy between old allies.
And man, this split in strategy is becoming crystal clear. On one side, you've got the US telling allies like the UK that dealing with China is very dangerous. And on the other side, the European Union is busy trying to hammer out trade deals with global partners, including China. The message is pretty obvious. The EU is forging its own path, putting its own economic interests first, even when it goes directly against US policy. So, when you start to put all these pieces together, the political uncertainty at home, the strategic challenge from BRICS, Europe going its own way, you start to see the outlines of a totally new global economic map. The old rules just don't seem to apply anymore. And the really critical thing to get here is that all these challenges are happening at the same time. It's a convergence. You've got geopolitical instability rattling investors. You've got that coordinated de-dollarization push. You've got Europe becoming a true economic rival. And tying it all together is the big one, the risk that countries will stop buying so many U.S. Treasury bonds, the very things that fund the U.S. government and have cemented the dollar's top spot for decades. Which leaves us with this final massive question. Is the future of the global economy going to look like the past, with one single dominant currency running the show? Or are we walking into a totally new era, a multipolar world with several different competing currency blocks? The answer isn't clear yet, but for the first time in a very long time, the question itself is very, very real.